Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to The Way Through. I'm your host, Bonnie Worth, and I'm really excited to bring to you part two of a episode that I started last weekend or last week when I brought in the authors from Elevated Resilience. Today, I have the second group of authors coming in. We continue our conversation about resilience, about finding our truth of speaking and expressing what is inside of us the most deepest level, what it means to be vulnerable, what it means to be seen, and what it means to really cultivate the expression of your own self, your own purpose, your own voice and truth into the world. So I'm so excited to welcome this group here today. Thank you, ladies, for all taking time to be here and a part of this conversation. We have created a collaborative book together, which is going to be published in December. It's coming up. And each of these women have contributed such beautiful, poignant stories of their own journeys, their transformation, and what really demonstrates an aspect of elevated resilience, not based on resilience, what we can see from the little human or the ego self, that is about sucking it up, getting over it, taking a step forward and moving on when something happens in our life. Instead, an aspect of resilience that comes from the willingness to do the deeper work, to be present with the feelings, the experiences, and to really extract what are those golden lessons that come about for evolution of oneself in our life. And so each of these women have stories where they've had to really unearth with inside of themselves and overcome some very big challenges in their life that really demonstrate this scope of elevated resilience from having done the deeper work and being able to express and unearth what is their greater truth. So, as we come into this conversation today, I want to just really, just really take a moment to congratulate each of you
Mhm.
for your contribution to this book, for your willingness to share what are really some of the most private aspects of yourself or your story with the greater world in helping to inspire and to lead other women through their journey in terms of really cultivating their authentic resilience as well. And so I'm just curious. I'm going to start, Kathy, just inviting you into the conversation here. What really inspired you to say yes to contributing to this book? What was it for you that really was the push or the nudge that had you say yes to coming into this project? Because I know on the flip side, it also came with a lot of resistance for you.
Absolutely. So my true honest answer to you is you. Uh,
Oh,
we had the opportunity to work with you. I'd had the opportunity to work with you through some really hard times, and my trust was there with you. So I knew that you weren't going to let me fail. And that was why I did it initially. The other part was you brought in some wonderful mentors, and one of them said, how sad it would be if we get to the end of our life and our story wasn't told. And that really rang true to me. And I think that was the push that really kept me through is I knew that there was a story. You believed in me as an author long before I believed in myself. But as this process unfolded, I realized there is a story in there. And so thank you.
you're welcome. And I think this is a big part of it. I love that you said that there is a story inside because for a lot of individuals, sometimes we believe, and it is a part of conditioning or maybe an illusion that we have in the basis of our life that the things that have happened to us maybe are not significant or perhaps don't really matter in the greater scope of things and can often diminish our experiences as not maybe having impact or being of help or serving to others in some way. Was that the case for you in terms of your
Oh,
story?
absolutely. We all go through hard things and we don't realize, I didn't realize, I'm not going to speak for everybody else. I didn't realize that um, what I went through was that extraordinary. I'd lost both my parents at the same time within 2 weeks of each other, and yeah, I knew that that was a big, big deal, but I had no choice but to work my way through it and to come through because I had other people depending on me. And so when you mentioned that that might be a story, my first resistance, well, everybody else does it, and then I realized as we went through this process that no. Everybody else
Mm.
doesn't do it. And to be able to help share that so that it'll help other people, absolutely. Yeah.
Isn't that
Oh,
just
yeah,
it?
the
Well,
resistance was there.
yeah. Yeah, and I think there's this, like, okay, this realization that, okay, maybe not everyone does go through this. Maybe not everyone has the answer or can understand, number 1, that they're not alone in their grief and they're not alone in what they're experiencing in their life as well. I'm so grateful to you. I'm glad that you met that
Mhm.
resistance, that you just, dove in, you followed through, and you brought such a magnificent story to life. Your story is called 12 steps home, and in it, it's just so powerful, in terms of these steps that you've taken to come back to yourself. So I cannot wait for people to be able to read your story. It's very, very powerful.
Well, thanks for giving me an
Yeah.
opportunity to voice it and showing me how. You showed me the way home. So
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
way home.
I totally couldn't have done it without you, that's for sure.
You had a great group.
Yeah, truly a really profound group of women that are contributing to this book. I absolutely agree. Brenda, hello and welcome. I'm so grateful and glad that you can be here today as well. In your process, now you've done, a lot of writing for yourself in the recent, especially in the recent years, really moving through processes of writing. And I'm really curious, how for you has writing really contributed or help to deepen your own understanding of yourself and maybe in helping you to express some of those greater truths inside of you?
Well, I have to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share another part of my journey. Um, I really wasn't a writer. I only began doing some writing, so 5 years ago now, maybe 6, and I just felt that I needed to write. I had so many questions, and something was calling me to start putting those questions on paper. And through the writing and posing my questions, I began to receive answers to those questions. And, there was some, um, profound things that seemed to be starting to flow through me, and when this began happening, I couldn't stop writing, I had to just keep writing.
Yeah.
And the more I wrote, the more I felt that it needed to be shared. And as I really do believe we all have a story that needs to be shared, that there's someone out there that is waiting to hear our story.
Yeah.
And, so writing has really been really healing for me.
Yeah.
It's been enlightening, it's been healing, and, yeah, I've actually really loved the process now of writing because it's like I can, it I'm having a conversation with myself, but it's with my higher self
Yes.
that is, that I'm able to communicate with,
Mhm.
and, yeah, it's, and then sharing in this book has allowed me, like I said, to share part of that,
Yeah.
part of some of what has come through and how it's helped me grow.
Yeah, I love that you bring up 2. I mean, you brought up so many incredible points, but there's 2 that really stand out in what you said. And one is the power of writing to help and support the healing, because obviously that's really where true resilience begins to create in strength and form and in stability within ourselves. And then also looking at the speaking and expressing of truth, of these things that for so many women, I think this is a big piece of it, where we look at that inability to express what we feel, what we think, what we believe. And I know for you in writing this chapter that you've contributed has really been a very liberating in you being able to really verbalize through words some of those greater truths for yourself. How do you feel now that that chapter is completed and that's been fully expressed?
It's, writing that my chapter in this one, um, really helped me, confront some of my old beliefs, old conditioning, and that through my writing, I was receiving these new, um, kind of new teachings that really had me questioning my conditioning. And so it was, like I said, a healing process, but it helped me really stand in my truth because I've come to these new understandings, even though it goes against a lot of what I had been brought up to believe. But it brings me strength when I stand in those teachings now that have become rooted within me
Yeah.
and the connections that it has brought me. And when you play small all your life and you don't bring forth some of that, what you feel that is within you, that is kind of waiting to be brought forth, and then you have the opportunity to do that, it is very freeing,
Yeah.
very freeing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad for you. Oh my gosh. I'm excited. I just said about Cassie's, I mean, really about everybody's chapters for this book. I'm so excited for people to read your stories and to be impacted through that, your journey, impacted through your journey, not just through your writing journey and the expression of your truth, but through your healing journey as you went through, the things that you went through to bring that out, those truths out into the world and to create that liberation. I'm so excited about this book and each of your stories. So thank you, Brenda. I really, really value everything that you've shared, as in the book, and really excited about what it's going to mean for other people who have the chance to read that story as well. Lori, hello. Oh my gosh, girl. I want to say when I mentioned earlier, with Kathy, meeting resistance, and I know that you're someone who really questioned your voice, your message, your story, your participation, of course, and not just in the book, but really questioning yourself in terms of what was possible for you, or the fact that what you had to offer had merit. And I'm really curious as to what was that growth like for you? What did you gain in your life through the process of contributing in this book?
Um, well, lots of roller coaster riding,
Yeah.
that's for sure. And I think also there was a forgiveness I didn't know that I needed, for a life that, I mean, I've lived a lot of my life inside of my life, and I thought that I had really worked through it, and yet there was more, and, so that was really interesting for me, and I think that the material that I ended up with
Yeah.
surprised me, and, in in a good and questioning and "Holy smokes, what's this about?" kinda way,
Yeah.
and knowing someone, uh, something far bigger than me was definitely in charge of a lot of my life, but this particular, subject. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is what's so beautiful about it all, I think, is that we come into this place where Brenda mentioned it too, where you begin this process of writing and realize that there's something greater than who you are that is writing through you, that is expressing some truths, some awarenesses, and that it becomes less about us as an individual writer in terms of what we know versus what's coming through us in terms of service, yes, to other people who get to read the book and benefit from the journey, but also in terms of our own self, what we benefit through as a result. And I love that for you, that it came into this scope of self-forgiveness. Often when we consider our healing journeys, and everyone goes through stuff, we all have challenges, we all have had life that has happened to us, and that we can maybe dismiss or neglect some of those nuances of experiences that we had in terms of our own role in our lives. And I know for a lot of listeners, that when, especially if you're in a place of where you're still feeling very victimized by life, or in maybe something is has happened that has been really, really challenging and difficult to be moving through, it's really difficult to consider what is, maybe a part of our role in what we create or experience in our life. So I don't want to downplay what you're going through, but it's also this awareness, as Lori, as you shared, in beginning to look at what you needed to forgive. How you needed to forgive yourself for things that had happened in your life. And can you just share a little bit about what that process was like for you?
Um I some of it was not even awareness. So it was like, "What? Wait,
Yeah.
what's that about?" And so that gave me opportunity. Um, and I will say I laughed at myself a lot and found, my inner drama queen was alive and well, so that was and I would just start laughing at myself because there's always this part of I understand my humanness, and then there's this higher thing going on going, "You are cracking me up." And so, I found a lot of laughter. I found, it was really interesting to write some things about my family, like, I'd get really shaky about it, and it's that secret stuff that you didn't know was still so important for you to hang on to that you were showing the world, and that was very, it was scary, it was freeing, it was very emotional, and I didn't know that I was gonna have that. Of Good thing the universe sneaks up on me because I would probably go, "I don't think so," and you know, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very, very different,
Yeah.
and, and then I realized it wasn't that I had to, it's that I was choosing to, and
Mm.
that really changed a lot as well for me.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
to choose to say what you're going to say, and it's like you're just throwing it out there, and whoever's gonna get it's gonna get it, whoever isn't going to, and those that mind don't matter, and those that matter, you know, matter, right?
Exactly.
They're
Exactly.
the Winnie the Poohism, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh. I think that's so great. I think, you look at it, and I don't want to downplay this because laughter and joy are such medicine to these things that happen in our life. So when we look at self-forgiveness and we think of it as being this grueling, hard process, that it really can be as easy as choosing it and finding the joy, finding the laughter, finding the a different perspective in terms of the character that we're playing or we played in our life in some way. And that's so important for people to hear. It really is. It doesn't have to be this grueling, hard journey where you're needing to go through some vile process of forgiveness. It can just be that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. All right. Bringing Marianne into the conversation. Oh my gosh. I love that. Again, I mean, my gosh, your story is so deep and raw and beautiful. And you have really, I mean, it's going to, like so many of the authors in this book, or all the authors, really a very inspirational and empowering story. I'm really curious, Marianne, as you were moving through your writing process and you were beginning to achieve some emotional freedom through your healing, through your journey. How would you say that that has benefited you in being able to be more authentic and expressive in who you are?
Mhm.
That's a big question. Um, that
Yeah.
is that is a huge question. I don't even know if I can really answer that to a degree that helps. I think bottom line, what it comes down to, Bonnie, is that because the emotional release has been there, and you work through, the intensities of what is weighing on you, and where your mindset is at, and why you're feeling the way you do in terms of these experiences. When you can work through that, it's liberating and it's freeing. So it is like it gives spaciousness to your voice, that you can just uh step into it, and just this is it. Like like I said, there's, I think I put it in my book that I was to hell and back. So it's just like,
Yes.
how could I not speak to it? Like there was like no holds bar anymore at that point in time. So yeah, I think that really that's what it is, that when you can actually, it's the get rid of the congestion of what's in the mind. And then, of course, which is causing the emotion and all those feelings, when those can actually be confronted, accepted, realized, right? As you work through that and breathe through it and recognize where it's all coming from, and also within that, not to see yourself as being so wrong in it,
Yes.
and that it's valid, and that I'm valid,
Yes.
right? And there's so much in it, and that's a big question, so I can go on and on.
Well, no,
But
it's so I mean, but it's great because it's a big question, and to understand that it really is, as you were journeying, as you said, whether it's through your writing or how you're doing it, you're present with how you feel. And in presence with how you feel means also to recognize that how you feel matters, what happened has mattered, and your story matters, and what your perspective that's come or been polished. We can look at the diamond in the rough that is
mm,
polished, is beneficial in helping you to be well and healthy in your own life. Yes, we look at writing and in this book particular, of course, it's in service to others, but really when you look at that expression of authenticity, as you said, it's like I've been to hell and back. I've been to hell and back. That warrants some wisdom.
right, right. And yet, still writing it, bringing it forward, there's um so much more that could be said and be shared within it, but yet it's like it's still was big enough, even though, I mean, I was just like, I can't remember, maybe it was Lori that said it, there were still things that had to be worked through. Like,
Yes.
you think you've got it all, or that, it's you've you've addressed it, or you worked through it, but yet there was more to sit with, more to work through, more to acknowledge and realize. And yeah, it was extraordinary for sure. So
Yeah. Well, and it
yeah,
was, I could even very honestly, it's exactly what even happened for me. I mean, I contributed a chapter to this book as well. And this was about looking at my story and what was unspoken and what was there for me, where there was still, as you mentioned, that congestion of emotion that was still sitting. And just as Lori had shared and Kathy had shared, it just I was surprised at what was still sitting there and what needed to be worked through, and the processing and the emotion and that willingness just to be present with the words and to see them on paper was so transformational for me. And I too was surprised by what was still inside of my system, even after all that I have healed and worked
Yeah.
through and everything. So I think this is the beauty of writing. Brenda mentioned this healing aspect that writing provides, and how we look, yes, we've got a lot of things we know. We've got this human mind that can rationalize, can intellectualize, it can construct and form an understanding based on, maybe our education and the things we've learned or we've studied. But there is something that is deeply, deeply poignant about the wisdom that comes from a lived experience, what we've lived through, what we've been able to understand and recognize within ourselves. And there's just it just shifts and changes so much inside of us, and that certainly was the case even for me writing the chapter. I want to, again, this is open now, to anyone who wants to kind of dive into this, but this really takes vulnerability. Would you not agree about vulnerability, ladies?
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yes,
yeah.
Kathy. Yeah, you're raising your hand, Kathy. Can we talk
Yeah.
vulnerability? Yeah.
I can talk vulnerability, and I can
Uh-huh.
really address what Miriam was saying in that there is more to unfold, and you don't realize how much there is until you. Um, I realized how much I rely on other people's feedback before I'll share more. And I'll tell them myself on this one, Bonnie. So Bonnie would ask us to submit certain things, and I would submit it, and she's like, "Yeah, but I want to feel your pain." And so I would go a little bit deeper, and I would give her what I thought was pain because um, I've not been allowed to share pain all this time. We've had to be strong for everybody else, and not being able to share the pain was really vulnerable for me. That was when you mentioned about resistance.
Yes.
That was where the resistance was. When you think of yourself as a tree, you can bend, and you can bend almost breaking, but I didn't know where my breaking point was. So I'd submit something else to her, and she's like, Yeah, you're getting close. I want to feel your pain. What's my pain? I showed you my pain.
Yeah, yeah.
So finally, I did. There was a cardinal that came in, and it
Yeah.
was that was my message, that it was okay for me to share the rest of the story.
Mhm.
And yeah, but I had to get really vulnerable. It was hard.
Yeah, it is hard to be vulnerable, right? And yet through vulnerability becomes our greatest, the greatest miracles in our life from that. And
Yes.
even just being able to bare our soul and to become vulnerable to ourselves can be one of the greatest things that we can fall into resistance of. I know, Brenda, you were really agreeing here too. You were nodding your head about vulnerability. How has that served for you? And how can you relate to that?
Well, I think, oh, pardon me, we've, our voices have been silenced, as you can tell. And so when you want to speak your truth, when you really feel the call within you to share that,
Yeah.
you have to get vulnerable then
Hmm.
because you've stifled that voice all your life. And, in my experience, if, speaking out, there could be judgment, there'd be criticism, especially if your views were a little different than the norm. So there's a huge aspect of vulnerability that comes through in the writing, but it is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
freeing to
Yeah.
to be able to lay it all out there to share because it's your truth.
Yes.
Like you said, it's your lived experience. So when you go to that space of vulnerability, you're bringing your truth forward, and
Yeah.
it is very freeing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So true. Oh, so true. Lori, I know you guys were all, I'm going to give you guys all a chance to talk about vulnerability because you were all like, yes, 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 yes. So I want to make sure to give you a chance. And so with you, Lori, when you consider this scope of vulnerability for you and sharing your truth and your story and your voice, how does that land?
I think for me, it was embracing the fact that I got to have a story. I
Oh,
I got to have the story, and however anybody else looked at it, I got to have my story, and regardless of everything else that went on around it, and how someone else might view it, how somebody else might say something about my truth, that was okay because I had mine. And giving myself that was really huge. And recognizing that, yeah, that
yeah.
I got to
Yeah.
have it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's wow. And just being able to not just like know this intellectually or on some level, but to actually come into a place of embodying and saying, this is my truth. I get to have this truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get to have
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
get to have it. Yes. Yes. So great. Marianne, of course, again,
Mm.
here we go, vulnerability and looking at what that represents, for you and what you've really felt that, and how does it contribute to building what we're talking about, this real, true strength and resilience?
It is in order to be vulnerable, you have to get into the ugliness of what was there, like the yucky, the all the
Mm,
muckiness and right, and yet
mm.
it's a lot of it. A lot of times we cannot find. We think that we can't face the vulnerability. It's too unsafe, and it's really about understanding. Like, in addition to the fact that yes, these are our stories, we get to have our voice to it, and yet it's just remember we're safe with ourselves. We have been conditioned to feel so
Yes.
unsafe and
Yes.
not use our voice that we didn't even know how to use it for ourselves, right? So this
Yes.
was really an opportunity in terms of my experience as well to become even more in the spoken word about it, not in the at that initial point, not necessarily to be external, but just to be within that, within my like for myself, for the
Yeah.
benefit of myself, to speak it first, to say it, and to know I'm safe with it. And then, it's like, and then it's just like, yeah, then you're really embodying your story. And it's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna tell people about this, right?
Yes.
Or yes, I'm
Yes.
willing to be able to speak to it now because we've suppressed and I think generally in our groups, we've had a lot of suppression in terms of what our life has been like or what our experiences have been. And for me, this was to be like, and yeah, and so now I don't have to suppress. I
Mhm.
don't have
Yeah.
to, pretend it didn't happen, or I didn't
Right.
have to shut down those feelings because of conditioning or somebody else's idealisms about what recovery should look like in time and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely, and I think there too, we look at Brenda mentioned it earlier too in terms of that fear of being judged, that fear of what other people are gonna say, how other people are going to react, how it's going to impact other people, and I think it's so important when we're looking at this scope of our vulnerability. This isn't about anyone else, as you said, this is Lori said, I think I get to have this story, that I get this, that I get to have my truth, and that's been a big, factor of what you're saying here too. It's like this is your story, your voice, and you don't have to pretend it to be different just to make other people comfortable.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, any of you feel did you deal with like any guilt? Like was guilt a part of the equation?
Yeah,
Lori, you want to talk about
absolutely.
that?
Um, and my mom isn't even on the planet anymore, but I felt like, "Oh, no, I'm not allowed to talk about this."
Yeah, right.
And it felt like I'm telling a secret, and I was always a secret keeper, so that was really weird to me to, to write it down and feel that. And I can't even say that it was a release, it was just an odd, "Oh, I'm doing this." It was really different to talk about it, and it was such a small part of what I wrote about, but it was
Right.
so big,
Yes.
and, it was just really big for me, that part. And then I rolled back around to, but it's my story, and I
Yeah.
get to when you have as many people in your family as I do, they're all gonna have their point of view, and
Yes.
it allowed that, and so
Yes.
and so am I.
Yes, yes. That's exactly it, right? It's giving space and presence. And you kind of mentioned a little bit about that earlier too. It's like where you kind of go into, I get to have this is my experience and I'm owning my experience, but at the same time you're not denying anyone else of their experience either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But isn't it interesting how we hold, and again, it's the conditioning. Brenda mentioned that earlier too, how we're conditioned to suppress our voice. We're conditioned to keep the secrets. We're conditioned to just suck it up and move forward in our lives. And maybe, or Marianne, I'll use that word pretending something didn't matter, something that happened didn't matter, or it didn't impact us in any way. And being able to do this. And I think it's so interesting, as you said, it's such a small part of the story, but it had a big impact for you. And the fact that there was still this holding back, this guilt, this uncertainty, even though your mom is no longer in physical,
right.
you
I'm
know?
highly trained.
Yes, yes, we all,
Highly
right.
trained.
Yes. Yeah, it's still that little, it's so interesting how we get, no matter how old we get in our lives, that we get thrown back to those points in time where we feel like the child, or feel like the adolescent, or feel like, the young, the teenager, where whatever it was, that we feel that we're still in that same place even though we are at the age that we are in our lives. Yeah.
If
Oh
I
my
can
gosh.
also if I can
Yes.
also add to that too is like, for me, it wasn't necessarily, I mean, there were probably pangs of guilt, but it was more fear-based for certain things, and to remember too that I don't have to be afraid, that this is, I'm valid in this, I'm valid in how it played out and or what happened and what I experienced, right? It's just, again, breaking from those conditions of, of fear as well too, so that was
Yes,
part of it for me.
yes. Oh my gosh, and fear is such a big part of it, right? It's fear. I mean, there's many aspects of fear when we consider it, fear of speaking our truth, of people finding out things we've been holding, or maybe even like I know even with my story, and I'm in a place where I can talk about that in my life very freely. I can talk about so much of my story very freely now. But I look back to a time when I would have held deep, deep shame. I would have held deep shame, and I held deep shame for many years over some of my choices and decisions. And then it's this compassionate place that you begin to fall into, at least I fell into a deeply compassionate place with myself. And that it's from a place of compassion that we can start to really become more empowered in terms of sharing that beyond the fear.
Well said.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, there's so many. This is such a great conversation, you guys. I'm really curious. When you're kind of looking at your past self, when you consider your past self. Now, a past self can be, 3 minutes ago. A past self can be 30 years ago. But when you consider your past self before you really kind of started, and not just your journey of writing. I'm going to go back to what you wrote about when you consider your past self, what advice or insight would you have to offer that past self now that you've been through this?
Ooh,
It's a big question, right? I mean,
you're
you've
gonna
been, you've
get
been through.
you're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna get it.
hmm
And to be just gentle with yourself, a little kinder. You'll
Yeah.
you'll get it. It just doesn't feel like it. Sometimes you gotta live life to get that, right?
Ooh, yes. Yeah. Oh, that's so good, right? It's like looking back at her and going, you know what, you're gonna get it. You're gonna figure it out and you've got to live some life and you'll get it. It's such an important part because we can consider, and I think a big part of our healing journey sometimes is we're trying to move beyond who we've been in the past and really come into the empowered place, but we also need to honor who we were at that time, that self looking back and just kind of recognizing, who we were at that time and doing the best that we could, at that time as well with what we knew and what we had available to us in terms of resources and awareness. Anyone else? So past self, what would
I
you have
would
to say?
say I would say trust yourself more.
Oh,
Trust those little nudges that you get. Yeah, just trust yourself more.
yeah. And that's
Give the
hard.
power away. Yeah.
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 Trust is a big issue, and I think that trust in ourselves, trust in the universe, we can have complexities in trusting other people, especially if we've been hurt or wounded and here's when you look back to, that old self for you and what a big message, Brenda.
Mhm.
And it's a big message to give yourself. I love that. I love that. Okay, past self.
I'll go.
Okay, yeah.
I yeah, I would tell her that she's safe just to think about herself and not worry about what other people about
Oh,
external everyone else in it
mhm.
because she put everybody else she suppressed and held everything in and had to contain it. Felt like she had to contain it for the better of everybody else, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And don't we do that? That, we go back to how we've been conditioned and playing these roles and how we were taught and to behave and everything. And so just looking and being able to look back at her and just, and give her that freedom to just care for herself as much as she cares for other people. Yeah,
Absolutely. Then
so
she'd
good.
probably know herself better too.
Right. Yeah, we all get there eventually, and maybe sometimes we don't, but we all eventually get there.
Yeah,
Kathy,
yeah.
what about for you? What about for your past self?
Um, that's a good question. I've been sitting here thinking, what do I want to say for this one? The thing that comes to my mind is it's okay to say yes. Um, because I'm one that I'll say yes, and then after I say yes, I'm like, "Oh, where are my running shoes? Let me slam that door shut." I open the door and peek in, and it's like, "Nope, nope, 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 no, thanks." Um, and I've ran from so many things, but I've also stepped into so many things. So
Yeah.
my word to my past self would be, "It's okay to go on in, and it's okay to shut the door behind you. You don't have to leave that door open for an escape route because you're right where you're supposed to be." So
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, right?
and y'all know me and know it's true. It's I had my running shoes on so many times, I never did really yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
I
I get
stayed.
it. And even as you say that, I'm thinking of, my own journey and how that reflects, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I totally get it." In fact, I always say if I would have known, where my life would have gone to or the things I would be doing, there's so many facets of it that I would have been running the other direction and saying no to. And the amount of times I did say no, said no to help or
Yes.
support that was available to me when I was sometimes at the most critical, when this saying yes, just to be able, this permission to say yes to the help, to say yes to the support, and knowing that it's not weakness, it's not failure, all of these things that sometimes are embedded, for us. And I think especially when we look at this scope of who we are as women, and we could say even, looking on the confines of a patriarchal system, we can think of it in terms of, individual storylines or even on a global scale, just in terms of what has been deemed appropriate for women, what has, what the expectations around our roles are, and especially in terms of, even having needs and being able to say yes to the things that serve us, that nurture us, that feed our soul is such an important part of ensuring that our whole self can show up in, for others. But we have to start saying yes to those things and not running away.
And to add to that too, Bonnie, is the fact that saying yes, that I need help, right? That was one of the things, like for me, it
Yeah.
was that it wasn't safe to ask for help, and we weren't, wasn't allowed to expose, right? So asking for help, so saying yes to that, even saying yes, I deserve. Or I'm worthy of receiving help, and I get to let others know I need it, since having that expression. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I want to look at honoring the time here. And of course, we've got still a few minutes for the conversation, but it also goes by incredibly, incredibly quickly. So, when you guys, and again, this question kind of going out to anyone or all of you, I'm just curious when you think of some of the experiences that anyone can have in terms of these things that happen to us in our lives, that the fear of judgment, the fear, the shame, the doubt, the insecurities, this unfiltered, we can say unprocessed, emotional carnage that can happen from experiences in our lives. I'm really curious from you guys in terms of um, what you recognize in terms of some of the barriers or blocks that maybe were there before, that even when when you consider how difficult it was, based on where you kind of have moved through on your journey, how do you really hope that your story is going to inspire or empower readers?
I can jump in on that one.
Perfect.
I
Love it.
guess we have this pregnant pause, right?
Yeah,
But,
yeah, I know.
the the that there's help always there. I think, Marianne, you brought up the fact that, we couldn't ask for help. I also had help all around me and I couldn't reach out for them. I was so frozen within myself and not even realizing how frozen I was, but to know that we are not alone. And my that's the inspiration I hope that people get from all of our stories, is that we all are faced with hard things and things that seem absolutely impossible when you look back on it. If I'd heard somebody else tell my story, I was like, how did you do that? But
Yeah.
when it's with us, when you're doing it, you don't realize how spectacular it really is. So, that's my inspiration for them, is that they realize that there is always someone there with you, and always some help along the way.
Because you can feel very isolated and alone and not realize, and again, even just the strength to reach out to someone, and it's like help is always there. And if someone that you reach out to isn't the one to maybe initially help you, it's still a powerful step in being able to, for the person who can support and help you, the best way to come forward. So it takes a lot, and that takes a strong voice to be able to do that. Such a beautiful point,
Mm.
Kathy. Thank you for sharing.
I can share.
Yeah, Brenda,
I
please.
hope that the readers take away that they have within them what it is they need. The answers are within.
Mm.
That we have the power within us, and we just need to kind of, I guess, break down those barriers and step through. And even when we feel like putting our running shoes on, the opposite direction. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes.
have it within us. We have it within
Yeah.
us. That was
And we've
that was key for me to learn that that I
And
really
we've heard a lot of context about that when you think of different teachings over time, through the self-improvement, spiritual, wellness, etc. And can you just speak about that power, Brenda? What you understand that power to be inside of you? When you say, "I have the power," we have the power inside of us. Can you just bring that?
well, yeah, through my writing, as these answers were coming forward, I knew that, it was being shown to me that I had the answers within me, that, as I posed my questions, the answers were coming through me. I had to learn to trust that. I
Yes.
had to learn to trust that. And then when I sat with, well, where could these answers really be coming from? As I grew on this journey into understanding my own worthiness and the own wisdom I have within me, I knew that I have this connection. I'm
Yeah.
connected to a greater source, and
Yeah.
it is always flowing through me. I have to just open up and allow it to come through.
Yeah. Oh, that's key. Oh, I have goosebumps as you say that. I just need to allow for it. And I think that's the number one thing for so many people, not recognizing it's not just available for some of us, it's available for all of us. And just being able to open and allow, right? Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. So good. So good. All right. Lori, Marianne.
Oh, totally, totally agree that it is, we're always provided for. If you think about, our journey through life, whatever that's been for each one of us, and as difficult as it's been, we're here. So
Mm.
we've always been provided for. We've always been able to overcome, and we've always been able to still rise and move forward. So
Yeah.
we're always looked after.
Oh, that's such a powerful message, I think, because a lot of people coming they're on their own journeys. Sometimes, again, we can go back to feeling like we're running the show solo, that we don't have, maybe we're not strong enough, we're not good enough, we don't have the know-how in order to make the changes that we desire in our lives. And it's like, for you to just to share and just say we have it inside of us to rise, like it's there already. And I think that's a part of what we could understand at the deepest core of who we are, at that soul level. Our soul is here for a purpose, and it already has everything that is required and needed in order for us to rise. Yeah,
Mm.
so good, Marianne. Oh my gosh. Lori, all right. What do you hope that readers
What
were?
what do you add to all that? I was thinking faith, the final frontier. That's what kept going on in my head. And it's so true, everything that's brought us to this moment, even if we don't want to think about it, was actually perfect. We It was okay. It's perfect, right? It didn't maybe feel like it in the moment, or maybe we didn't appreciate the people who brought us the message and
Yeah.
all those things. But we're here now. And
Yeah.
how amazing is that? We're here now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're conveying in the book, is all these experiences, not to make light of any of them,
Right.
or that they weren't intense or horrifying or whatever that story is. We're made up of all these stories to bring us
Mhm.
to ourselves, and that brings us to right now, just
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so great. I could spend the whole day chatting with you guys. I truly could, because it's just so much wisdom all in one spot, in conversation and in connection today. I want to just share with listeners that we have a wonderful event. If you have been inspired by something that these authors have said, we have a beautiful and amazing online event happening on December the 6th. We have our online book launch. It is our author showcase, where you'll get to come online and experience greater or more even intimate conversations with
Mhm.
the authors. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. We have
I like
it's a
when you should be
real
putting the pans.
we have a little online retreat happening. So, you guys, we really would love for you to join us and be a part of it. And I think more than anything, as we look at community, the importance of community and what it means for all of us in terms of rising, of healing, and really knowing that our true strength and our greatest resilience. So I invite all of you to join in. To each and every one of you, ladies, for being here today, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have just shared such beautiful perspective and wisdom, and I'm forever grateful. And of course, to each and every one of you who tune in every week, thank you for being here. And I will continue my conversation with you again next week. And remember, whatever challenges that are arising in your life, irregardless of circumstance, there is always a way through. Bye for now.